Hi everyone. Today we are continuing our work with fractions and decimals by completing lesson 12-5. The last 2 days we have been working with fractions, so today we're going to switch and get back into our work with decimals. So today we are going to be solving word problems involving money. Money always involves the use of decimals, as you will see today. So let's take a look at our solve and share situation. A flash drive costs $24, including tax. A customer purchases, I apologize for my dog. He is being very loud and obnoxious today. So, anyway, a flash drive costs $24, including tax. A customer purchases 3 flash drives. He does not want me to read this problem. Let's try it one more time. A flash drive costs $24, including tax. A customer purchases 3 flash drives and pays the cashier $80. How much change should the cashier give back to the customer? Solve this problem any way you choose. So first thing we should focus on is the quantities in the situation. So we know a flash drive, and a flash drive is what you see right down here. It is a little item that you stick into a computer and you can use to save your files. So we know a flash drive cost $24. The customer purchases 3 flash drives and then pays the cashier $80. So we first have to figure out what is the cost of 3 flash drives. So in order to figure that out, we need to think of an equation involving $24 as our cost and the fact that there are 3 flash drives. Now, my advice for you with this unit is to do your work on scrap paper. If you have access to grid paper, that would be the best scenario. In this lesson, we're going to include a link so that you can print your own grid paper. If you do not have access to a printer, you can use any scrap paper that you are able to find. Just try to keep your work as neat and organized as possible. So I'm going to write an equation for our solve and share problem. I know a flash drive cost $24. Now, when I'm writing $24, I can write it like that, but the more efficient way is to use a decimal. So you would have your decimal point here. Anything that is on the left side over here represents the full dollars. Anything on the right side of the decimal point represents the coins or the change or how much money you have that is not a full dollar. Now, we know that $24 is the cost of 1 flash drive. This person purchased 3. So we could add $24 3 times. But as we've learned in math class, there is a much faster and efficient way. Instead of doing repeated addition, let me find my eraser here for a second and erase this stuff up at the top in case we need this space. The faster way, instead of using repeated addition, would be multiplication. So we would take this entire quantity and multiply it by 3. Now, you're going to use multiplication in standard algorithm just as you always would. So we start with 3 times this place here, which is the 100th place. 3 times 0 is 0. Come back to the 3, multiply it times the next place. This is the 10th place. 3 times 0 is 0. We then reach our decimal point, so all we're going to do is just bring the decimal point down and rewrite it. We then continue with our multiplication. So now we're going to multiply 3 times the ones place. 3 times 4 is 12, so this involves some regrouping. We're going to put the 2 at the bottom and regroup the 1. Then we continue with our multiplication. 3 times the tens place. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we have a total of $72. Now, we know in the solve and share problem, the customer gave the cashier $80 total. So that's $80 and 0 cents. In order to answer the question of how much change the person would get back, we need to do some subtraction. So we need to subtract $72 from $80. Notice how grid paper is so helpful here and how important it is to stay organized. Your hundredths place is always going to stay lined up. Your tenths place is always going to stay lined up. Your decimals will always stay lined up, as will your ones place and your hundredths place. So now we subtract. So come over to your hundredths place. 0 take away 0 is 0. Come over to your tenths place. Again, 0 take away 0 is 0. Bring your decimal point down. Come over to your ones place. 0 is not able to subtract 2 in this situation, so we need to regroup. So come over to the tens place. Instead of 8, we have 7. Complete your regrouping back in the ones place, and now we're able to finish the subtraction. 10 take away 2 is 8. 7 take away 7 is nothing, but we don't have to write that. So we have discovered that the customer should receive $8 in change. So coming back over to the solve and share, we know our final answer is $8. So don't forget, anytime you're working with money, the full dollar amounts will always be represented to the left of the decimal point. The coin or the change amounts will always be represented to the right of the decimal point. So let's take a look at the visual learning situation. So we have Marcus buys a toy airplane and a toy car. How much does Marcus spend? How much more does the toy airplane cost than the toy car? So here's the cost of the airplane. Here's the cost of the car. So you'll see your visual learning page is showing you what that would look like with actual dollars and cents. Okay. They're showing you the addition equation here and what the total amount would be. They're also showing you here subtraction and how you could possibly solve that. Now, as you're working with this, of course, you can use a calculator, but my advice would be to solve it on scrap paper first and then check your work with a calculator. So, in the guided practice section today, here are some of the situations that we are going to look at. We're going to look at numbers 1, 2, and 3 together. You can try and solve them on the math pages here. If you need more space, don't forget, use grid paper or any scrap paper that you can find. So let's take a look at number 1. Write a fraction and a decimal to describe how the quantities are related. So here we have a dime. We know a dime is 1/10 of a dollar because it takes 10 dimes to make up a dollar. 1 dime is 1 out of the 10. We don't ever write money as a fraction. We always write money as a decimal, and it would look like this. 1 dime is worth 10 cents. Here's how you write 10 cents. So if we have 3 dimes and we're being asked to write that as a fraction, remember, your denominator is 10 because it takes 10 dimes to make a whole dollar. And we have 3 dimes, so that would be 3/10. Here's what 3 dimes or 3/10 looks like as a decimal. We put our dollar symbol first. We have no complete dollars, so we start with a 0 in the ones place. We put our decimal point, and we know this is 10, 20, 30 cents. So we write that we have 30 cents. You can see your 3/10, 0 hundredths. So that is how you would write it, as either a fraction or a decimal. So let's come down now and look at number 2. Here, write a fraction and a decimal to describe how the quantities are related. We have a penny. It takes 100 pennies to build a dollar. That's why the denominator says 100. 1 penny is 1 out of the 100 that it takes to make up a whole dollar. But again, we don't really write money in fractions. We write money as a decimal. So here's what that would look like. There are no dimes in this situation, so our tenths place has a 0. We have 1 penny, that's 1/100th. So this here says 1 cent or 1 penny. So what would that look like with 3 pennies? Well, it takes 100 pennies to make up a dollar. So our denominator is going to be 100. And we have 3 pennies. So we have 3 out of the 100. To write it as a decimal, start with your dollar symbol because we're dealing with money. We do not have any whole dollars, so we put a 0 in the ones place. Put your decimal point. We don't have any dimes in this situation, so our tenths place gets a 0. And we have 3 pennies or 3 hundredths. So we put a 3 in the hundredths place. It would look something like that. So let's come over here now to number 3. Number 3, Marcus has $15. He buys a movie ticket for $11.25. How much money does Marcus have left? And they're showing you money to try and help with a situation. I'm going to solve this problem on grid paper because I do not feel like I have enough money to work here. So I'm going to come over to grid paper. I'm going to record that I am working on problem number 3. And here is the situation. Marcus has $15. So I'm going to write that in a neat and organized way on my grid paper, not forgetting the dollar symbol to show that I'm working with money. I know he spent some of that $15 buying a movie ticket. So here it is. He bought a movie ticket for $11.25. How much money does Marcus have left? Oh, I see that keyword left. That's telling me a certain operation. Okay, so I know he spent $11.25. If he spent money, that means money is leaving his pocket. If I see the keyword of left, I also know that that is telling me here I need to subtract. Now, you're going to solve this subtraction just as you would any other subtraction situation. So we look here at the hundredths place and we see a 0. 0 is not going to be able to subtract 5. Again, we try to regroup. We see another 0. So let's use what we know about crossing all of the zeros and regrouping. So we have to come all the way over here to the ones place. Take that away. Regroup. Regroup again. And now we can continue with our subtraction. So in the hundredths place, 10 take away 5 is 5. In the tenths place, 9 take away 2 is 7. Notice how so far the subtraction has functioned just the way that we learned subtraction would. Here's the only thing that's different. Now you're just including a decimal point. Continue on with your subtraction. 4 take away 1 is 3. 1 take away 1 is nothing. Put your dollar symbol. So we know he is going to have $3.75 left. So I'm going to record that back in my math book. $3.75. Don't forget to include the dollar symbol to show that you're working with money. So some advice as you're working today. Work on scrap paper, grid paper if possible, to help you keep your places lined up and neat and organized. You are also allowed to use a calculator to check your work. So we are going to continue working, solving numbers 4 and number 5. Then on the other side of the page, continue working on number 8, number 11, and number 12. If you'd like to try a super bonus, you could also take on number 10 as a bonus challenge. Again, if you are having difficulty with this lesson or any of these concepts, don't forget to reach out to your teacher. You can replay the video and pause it anytime that you need to. So take advantage of your teacher, take advantage of having this video available, and do the very best that you can.